Lesson 3. Aperture Settings or f-stops. F-stops. This should look familiar. It's from Lesson 2. Look closely at the aperture openings and the numbers near them. What do you observe? I hope you noticed that as the numbers got bigger, the opening became smaller. There's a lot of complicated math to show how this works, but simply stated, the f-stop is the bottom half of a fraction, so 2 is really 1/2, and 8 is really 1/8. Which is a bigger fraction, 1/2 or 1/8? Yes, 1/2 of a pi is bigger than 1/8 of a pi. In the previous lesson, you learned that the f-stop relates to how much light falls on the sensor. Think of it like a window. A bigger window will let in more light. If your ISO and your shutter speed remain the same, then moving from f2 to f8 exposes the sensor to less light, and moving from f16 to f8 exposes the sensor to more light. Pop quiz. Pause the video now. Read the question. Decide your answer. Unpause the video, and the next slide will provide the answers. 1. You are using the sunny day rule, ISO 100, shutter speed 100, and f-stop 16. It gets cloudy out. Should you change your f-stop to f32 or f8? 2. If your f-stop is at 5.6 and you want more light to fall on your sensor, which f-stop should you change to, f14 or f22? 3. When you think about exposing your digital sensor to light, the clue to help you with f-stops is how sensitive, or how much, or how long. Pop quiz answers to Part 1. 1. You are using the sunny day rule, ISO 100, shutter speed 100, and f-stop 16. It gets cloudy out. Should you change your f-stop to f32 or f8? f8. 2. If your f-stop is at 5.6 and you want more light to fall on your sensor, which f-stop should you change to, f14 or f22? f14. 3. When you think about exposing your digital sensor to light, the clue to help you with f-stops is how sensitive, or how much, or how long. How much. Pop quiz continued. Pause the video now. Read the question. Decide your answer. Unpause the video, and the next slide will provide the answers. 4. Which f-stop results in the smaller opening of the aperture and thus lets in less light, f14 or f16? Even some professional photographers have trouble understanding f-stops. If you didn't do as well as you would have liked on this quiz, why not go back to the beginning of this lesson and study it again? Pop quiz answer. 4. Which f-stop results in the smaller opening of the aperture and thus lets in less light, f14 or f16? f16. F-stops. When you move down one f-stop, twice as much light falls on the sensor. Conversely, when you move up one f-stop, half as much light falls on the sensor. Remember, f-stops are fractions, so up and down are backwards. 1/4 equals 1/1/4. f14 to f2, half as much light. f22 to f16, twice as much light. Changing f-stops. Each digital camera will be different, so I encourage you to look in your manuals. There are 2 things that are common, a black wheel and a button with AV and a plus-minus near it. The image to the left shows one common placement of the wheel. Changing f-stops. The plus-minus button is often found on the back of a digital SLR, but sometimes it's near the shutter release button. The letters AV may be beside it or not. How do you know you changed your f-stop? Look at the LCD display. F-stop terms. Aperture. The opening in the lens that allows light to fall on the digital sensor. The f-stop controls the size of the aperture. Fast lens. A lens that has an f-stop of 1/4 or even 1/2 is considered a fast lens. Stop up or down. To increase or decrease the opening of the aperture using the f-stop settings. Wide open. The lens is wide open when the aperture is open the widest it can be. For most 35mm digital cameras, this will be f2 or f2.8. There is one more concept about f-stops that you will need to learn: depth of field. There will be a full lesson on depth of field in a future lesson. For now, practice using your f-stops in different light conditions. The following assignments will give you a chance to do just that. Shooting hints. 1. Don't delete your shots in the field. The LCD screen of your camera can be lighter or darker than the final product, and the sun can cause glare on the LCD screen. 2. When you do look at your photos on your computer, don't delete any until you have looked at them twice. Sometimes I even leave them for a day and come back to them. I find I can be too critical on the first look. 3. Most photo editing programs will show you the settings that each photo was shot at. You may have to right-click and open the properties. Or if you prefer, you can keep a notebook of each shot listing number of the photo, light conditions, f-stop, shutter speed, and ISO. Assignment. Start with the Sunny 16 rule again: f16, shutter speed 100, and ISO 100. Go out on a bright sunny day to shoot an object on the ground. Avoid having the sky in your photo. Shoot the object in bright sunlight and change the f-stops up and down 2 stops. Move the object to the shade or find an object in the shade. Change your f-stops to allow more light onto the sensor. If after 5 or 6 tries your photos are not light enough, try changing your ISO to 200. This will give you some practical experience before the lesson on ISO. Compare the photos taken at different f-stops. Choose your best one and share it with the class.